Hello from the Rotating Ferrets.
Hello.
In 2011 we've got a brand new programme called Masters of Motorsport, where me and Mark, will be discussing the greats from recent motorsport years that we actually remember.
So the guys like Nigel Mansell, Damon Hill, David Coulthard?
We might discuss it. Alan Prost, Rubens Barrichello.
Ayrton Senna, of course.
Join us in the future. Bye! Hello!
Hi.
Welcome to Masters of Motorsport with me, Paul Smith.
Me, Mark Smith.
And today we're going to just talk about one of our favourite drivers, certainly one of my favourite drivers.
Well, probably most famous Birmingham resident ever.
On the Isle of...
He moved there, didn't he?
Yeah. Let's digress. We are, of course, talking about Nigel Mansell.
Yes.
Nigel Mansell, yeah, he doesn't have that now, apart from in the advert.
Yeah.
So Nigel Mansell, he of course famously lost the World Championship in 1986 with his big tyre explosion in Adelaide. That was a spectacular moment, one of the most viewed moments in Formula 1 history, I'd say.
Showers of sparks everywhere, I think it's probably fair to say.
Yeah, so we got that. He's also won the World Championship in 1992, winning it at the Hungaroring. Fantastic drive from him, and well-deserved championship.
Yeah, but then for whatever reason he wasn't picked up again for the following year. So he decided to move to America and take part in the IndyCar instead.
Which, of course, is where he won the IndyCar Championship in his rookie season, being I think it was the first rookie to win the Kart World Series.
I believe it is.
He also finished third in the Indianapolis 500 as well in his first attempt, which was quite an achievement.
And I think that was also with a dodgy back as well.
Yeah, where he injured it in a massive crash. I think it was at Phoenix. And he had to have several litres of fluid drained out of his back and had painkillers and that. But anyway, he was also the most successful British driver in Formula 1 history in terms of race wins, that is. I think it was 31 race wins. I really should have researched this.
Well, we do have some literature just in case we need it.
Yeah, but yeah, 31 race wins. Fantastic for a British driver.
That's probably unheard of now, but you're thinking maybe a couple of new guys that we've got coming in
that we'll discuss later.
Yes, another edition.
And finally, he had famous BTCC appearances in the British Touring Car Championship. First one, 1993, in the Tucker Shootout, of course, which he had a bit of a crash due to Tiffany Dell. He lost it, and then Tiffany Dell just clipped him, so we'll blame Tiff.
I think fair to say that Tiff helped him on his way.
Yes, which actually was a serious accident. He ended up unconscious.
Yeah, not good all round.
No, not good at all. But then later on, 1998, of course, he appeared for Ford for 3 race weekends, and his most famous being in the wet at Donington Park, where he stormed through the field and unluckily his brakes started failing and he ended up finishing 4th.
But that was also with car Red 55. I couldn't have car 5 because that was somebody else, but he's always famous for having that Red 5. I think that's one of the most sort of memorable bits of his cars that he's raced in. I think is probably one of the images everyone remembers of Nigel Mansell, as well as the Tash.
Well, yeah, I mean, when he got rid of the Tash, of course, everyone mourned the loss of the said Tash. It was a sad day for motorsport and for British sport everywhere.
There was a ceremony on the Isle of Man for that Tash.
Yeah.
Small coffin. Yeah. Cremated.
Yeah, it was the only way to go. But yeah, so what would you say is the most memorable moment of Nigel Mansell's career?
I think the Silverstone win in '92, where he crossed the line and couldn't get round again because the entire crowd lobbed themselves onto the track, lifted him out of the car onto their shoulders. I think it was about 150,000 people all decided to just run onto the track just to sort of welcome him back and show their appreciation for the man.
Of course, there was the one of the most famous points of Nigel's career was when he gave Ayrton Senna a lift back to the pits after the British Grand Prix. Also, I think that was 91.
Yeah,
when he did that, and Ayrton just jumping onto the side pod and
holding onto the airbox. The marshal going, "Get off!" Senna going, "Get away!
I know what I'm doing."
Forward, Nigel.
Advance. I'd say that's one of my the most memorable moments of Nigel. I was only young when that happened. I mean, I was only 7. So I think it was 7. 7 when that happened. So
well done for your math skills. He's good at this, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I am. So that's Nigel Mansell. You have to say he always pushed it to the limit. He never believed in sort of like backing off and taking a back step.
Yeah, he always pushed for the win. Always shoved the car. He'd come back into the pit, apart from the car would be in ruins. Yeah, he'd still be sort of getting out fresh as a daisy. The
most famous occasion, I shouldn't point. One of the most famous occasions Nigel Mansell quite literally pushing the car to the finish was in Dallas in 1984 with the Lotus when he collapsed. No, that was Caesar's Palace. But where he collapsed on the start and finish straight from heat exhaustion because it was that hot.
Well, it is sort of a tropic area, so it's quite warm in Dallas.
Yeah. So anyway, that's our first programme. A bit muddled, but what can you help? So next time we'll be discussing somebody else. So why not join us then for Masters of Motorsport? I'm Paul Smith.
I'm Mark Smith.
And welcome to Masters of Motorsport. Today we're going to be discussing one of our favourite British drivers. I'm of course talking about the 1996 World Champion, Damon Hill. So, as I say, won the World Championship in 1996.
Yes, he did.
He could have won the World Championship in 1994 with his famous championship battle with Michael Schumacher.
It wasn't really a battle at the end, was it? It was more sort of, I'm showing you off and breaking your car.
You say that, but the competitive spirit in Michael Schumacher, we'll talk about that later in another programme, but Damon Hill
was robbed.
Well, Damon Hill
was robbed.
Should he have actually gone for that move, though, having seen that Michael had gone off the track?
Well, considering it was, he's half dozen of one, 50 the other.
Well, that's specific. Of course, other things Damon Hill did was, of course, 1997 Hungarian Grand Prix, famously almost won. Plucky Brit always comes in second. Again, in the unfancied Arrows, of course.
It was probably one of the worst cars ever built that year. I mean, it was one of the Tom Walkinshaw.
It was
racing Arrows team.
Tom Walkinshaw, TWR team.
Yeah, now it would have won apparently if it wasn't for a 50p O-ring in the gearbox, which was part of the oil seal. And had that not gone, he would have gone on to win the race.
By a vast margin over the person who went on to win the championship, Jacques Villeneuve. Other things that Damon Hill did, of course, 1998 Belgian Grand Prix. Jordan, of course, they weren't really performing that well. Damon, it took him a while to actually get some points in the season. Then along came the rain, along came a massive, monumental accident at the start of the Belgian Grand Prix that year with David Coulthard starting it all. It's all his fault.
It's not David Coulthard's fault. Don't blame Coulthard.
Well, I am. He caused a massive crash which actually saved Damon because he'd made an awful start that first time. So they restarted the race and several other drivers had crashes, including Michael Schumacher, who was miles in the lead. at that point in the race, and Damon picked up the lead after Michael had gone out and went on to win the race, not without pressure from his teammate Ralph Schumacher, who had to be told by Eddie Jordan, the weird Irishman, to back off because Damon Hill said over the radio he'd have him off the track if he tried to go past. So that shows, again, a bit of competitive spirit from Damon.
Yeah, there is a bit of that, but I think it's also the point of you want your team to actually win and come second rather than fall off the track and get no points whatsoever.
Well, yeah, there is that, absolutely. Yeah, but you have to say, threatening to hit your teammate off the track if he tried to go past, that's a bit extreme, isn't it?
It's a bit of a threat.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a threat. Yeah,
we have a go at sort of other drivers for having people off the track. Michael Schumacher, and
what was that?
But Damon himself has done it, or threatened to do it.
Threatened, not done it, on more than one occasion. Looking at you, Michael.
But yeah, so I mean, what was one of your favourite moments of Damon's career? Would you say?
Well, there was the pairing with him and Ayrton Senna at Williams, which was when Ayrton Senna was at Williams there, and
3 races, didn't it?
3 races he got, and ended up being car 0 as well at one point, which was probably the most bizarre.
Well, I mean, it was car 0 when he started at Williams in 1993 because Nigel had left the team, and
nobody could be number 1 according to Formula 1.
Yep. So Damon took up car 0 and Alan Prost took car 2, and again the following season Alan Prost left Williams and no, he didn't go anywhere else. He retired from the sport. So again, Damon Hill ended up with car 0.
Now you do know what was said apparently by his teammates when they had the choice of which car to go for, number 2 or number 0. They were usually saying, I think it was Prost who was quoted as saying, "Who wants to be a 0 in Formula 1?"
Very good point, again showing competitive spirit from a bit of a, it's a number, deal with it. But yeah, also he's current BRDC chairman as well.
Yeah, been instrumental in developing Silverstone as well, which has been a big boost. They've got a new section, they're building a new pit and paddock complex. I think that they've sort of decided finally to modernise the track. And
secured the future of the British Grand Prix in Britain, surprisingly.
It's a good place to have the British Grand Prix.
Yeah, they were talking about taking it somewhere else, just to put the naming right, but that'd be rough. So anyway, that was Damon Hill. Join us next time when we'll be discussing another Master of Motorsport.
Hello!
Hi!
And welcome to another edition of Masters of Motorsport with myself, Mark Smith.
And me, Paul Smith.
On this edition, we're probably going to be one of the more controversial characters in recent times.
Yes.
Michael Schumacher. Now, we all know that he's won the World Championship 7 times.
Mm-hmm.
Back in from retirement, trying to do it again.
Yeah.
This time with Mercedes. Not quite cutting it this last season in 2010.
Yeah, but that was the car.
Well, maybe. He did say that he would want to improve. Anyway, he's had the most number of poles.
Mm-hmm.
He's had podiums up to his armpits, I think it's safe to say.
Yeah.
And he's also scored double the points of Alan Prost, who of course is France's best racing driver.
Yeah, absolutely. Not only that, he's got 91 wins, which is 40 more than Alan Prost, actually, who was the next highest in terms of wins in Formula 1.
Yeah, and I think it's 3 more points than Ayrton Senna that he's got as well.
Nice.
Overall.
So he is a cracking driver. Of course, I know we discussed in the Damon Hill episode, the title fight with that went down to Australia with Damon and
also with Jacques.
Jacques in 97. Jacques in 97, of course, was famous for him actually getting disqualified from the Formula 1 World Championship in the end.
I do remember Martin Brundle commentating on that race, and when Michael went to try and ease him off the track slightly, using his wheel.
Yeah.
Controversial. Martin Brundle was saying, "No, Michael, you've done that wrong. You've done it wrong, my son.
I don't think that was quite the quote. Don't think that was quite the quote, but still, never mind. Then, of course, 98 and 99, of course, he had his battles with Mika Hakkinen, who Michael did actually say was one of the toughest drivers he ever faced in Formula 1. What about those years, Michael? Well, I mean, 99, obviously, he broke his leg at Silverstone, which cost him any chance of the World Championship that year.
Yeah, it was probably the most serious accident he ever had on the track, I think. Where both legs were both broken in a head-on collision with a tyre wall at Silverstone, as you've just said.
Mm-hmm.
But he did spring back. He had the operation. He was back walking within 3 weeks.
Yeah, tough guy.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
And he sort of came back the following season with a lot more grit and determination, and I believe he was doing that then. Yeah,
he won the World Championship in 2000. David Coulthard finished second that season, but he didn't really stand a chance to DC. But that was the first of Michael's run of 5 World Championships in a row with Ferrari. And the most controversial of those happened in 2002 when, at the Austrian Grand Prix, Rubens Barrichello was leading the race and was politely asked to maybe just shift to the side to let Michael go through.
Controversial.
And Rubens did it right at the very end of the race, which
last corner, I believe.
No, it was on the start and finish straight. And
even worse.
The media kicked off about it. The fans at the track kicked off about it.
The team got fined because Michael Schumacher wanted Rubens on the top step.
Yeah, not following podium procedure, and really that kicked off sort of like the major controversy with Ferrari and team orders that seems to be rumbling on to this very day. But Michael Schumacher, was he a genius or was he just an arrogant guy who happened to have the right machinery?
Well, you get these people who say, yeah, he's had 7 titles, he's obviously the best driver ever. But then you got other people saying he was ruthless, he was manipulative, he wanted everything for himself. So obviously that knocks that back in their eyes. You've got the likes of, say, I don't know, Fangio doing 5 wins overall. Everyone seems to regard himself and Senna as probably the greatest. Whether the controversies have knocked Michael Schumacher back,
but you see, this is where I turn it around, because people always say, "Oh, Ayrton Senna, possibly the greatest driver." He wasn't a laid back sort of guy who didn't want everything for himself and that. He was a controversial guy. I mean, running your championship rival off at the first corner in 1990, it's quite an extreme
it's not
extreme
just
thing
that
to
year,
do.
Was it?
No, but so it's not only Michael Schumacher who's done it. This is why I think he is the best driver ever to be in Formula 1 myself. Purely because he's won those 7 World Championships. He's got by far the most wins in Formula 1 history. And he's just done everything. The thing that I don't agree with him is coming back. He's done everything. He's proved everything. Why did you come back?
Money.
I don't think it was money, actually. No, he got the. No, it isn't money.
Let's have a think about it. Ross Broad. Michael, would you come back and drive for me?
Since when did Ross Brawn sound like the Bungle or whatever from Rainbow?
He does sound depressed. He's like Eeyore. He's the Eeyore of Formula 1.
Oh dear, that's making the edit. So anyway,
maybe controversial.
So anyway, so that was the show about Michael Schumacher, the controversial Michael Schumacher. Join us next time when maybe we won't be so
energetic.
Yeah, for the next Masters of Motorsport. Bye.
Ta-ta.
That's Mike Brewer's line.
What?
Ta-ta, it's Mike Brewer's line.
spectators. Hi.
Welcome to Masters of Motorsport. I'm Paul Smith.
I'm Mark Smith.
And today we're going to be discussing another ex-world champion in Formula 1. Mm-hmm. It's, of course, the Professor, Alain Prost.
France's best racing driver.
So anyway, Alain Prost, second most wins in Formula 1, 51 wins from his 13 seasons in Formula 1. He's a bit before my time, I would say, because I'm young, you see.
Polite way of him saying I'm old.
Yeah. He won the title 4 times. The last time I do remember with him winning for Williams in that just unbelievably brilliant car, the most technologically advanced car in Formula 1 ever. And then they changed the rules.
Smart thinking.
So, of course, we've got that 4 times champion. 199 starts. Didn't quite get that 200th start, but oh well, never mind. Of course, he had the big rival with Ayrton Senna. What do you say about that?
That is the main memory of Alain Prost, is the whole rivalry with Ayrton Senna. He was always sort of stuck in the shadow because everybody saw Senna as the greatest driver of that time, sat on a plinth above Prost, and he felt like he was trying to catch up basically all that time. Which is where the, well, I'd say friendly banter comes.
Competitive edge.
Competitive. Competitive?
Yes, competitive.
Competitive edge. And slight anger may have come from at times as well.
Well, it all boils down to when Ayrton Senna joined McLaren, because once, I think it was in, Alain Prost said in his last race of his career at McLaren, Ayrton Senna had 20 mechanics working around his car. Yes, 20, that's all. 20. When you compare it to now.
Well, it's about 300 now.
But he had 20 mechanics working feverishly around the car. Alain Prost had about 5. So that showed you where the team's priorities were going towards when Alain was finishing at McLaren in 1989. Of course, we can't talk about Alain Prost without saying about he owned the Prost Grand Prix team, bought out the Ligier team back in the mid-90s, and wanted an all-French team, took on drivers like Olivier Panis and Jean Alesi.
I think the whole thing was to sort of show the French pride, which they do have quite a lot of over there. It comes in sackfuls. Yeah. To show that they could build the best team with the best drivers, the best car, all round.
Unfortunately for Alain,
he bought Ligier, let's put it that way.
Well, no, not that. It's the fact that he managed to offend most of his sponsors along the way, thus meaning that he didn't have any funding. So when it came to the end of it, it was just they just ran out of money and went into liquidation. Yeah,
it wasn't a good time for the sport really in general, because it was losing a team out of a limited number of cars.
Absolutely. So, Alain Prost, obviously, we've talked about the Senna thing. Anything else that you put your finger on Alain Prost as being sort of like one of the things that sets him apart from others?
Well, he did always have the dedication to the actual racing himself, because obviously he was fighting Senna most of the time, but he wanted to prove who he was himself rather than standing in somebody else's shadow. Skills on the track, absolutely. I mean, you could see him going toe to toe with the best of the front end of the grid at the time, and he just blew up so many people out of the water with the skills he had in the car at the time. It was just one of the more sort of, You know when they talk about, say, Lewis and Jensen, the difference between them, Jensen's fairly smooth compared to Lewis as being straight
aggressive.
He was a combination of both. I think it was sort of really sort of ruthless, trying to get down the front end, but then also feathering the car around all the circuits, and getting them into the right spot at the right time.
Absolutely.
And it was just them skills that he just seemed to excel at. Shame it didn't quite transfer to the management of the team. But he was way up there in my estimation, I think.
Yeah. After Formula 1, of course, he went away from the sport for a while. Then came into ice racing, the Trophy Andros race championship. And actually won it twice in 06, 07 and 07, 08 in Toyota. It's quite a different skill as ice racing to Formula 1, wouldn't you say?
Well, there's less grip.
Less grip, you're driving sideways most of the way, looking through your side window. And it does take quite a lot of skill, as sort of like Jovan Muller has shown, and Olivier Panis, France's second best racing driver, has shown as well.
Also, quite a few people have recently with the bad weather we've had. Although most of you are rubbish.
I think we might edit that out because, of course, people can watch it any time on YouTube.
That's fine.
Okay.
Unless you're Canadian or Scandinavian, you're good.
Or Russian.
Controversial.
Or Russian.
Yeah.
No, they're just drag boxes and shoot people. So, that was Alan Prost. Why not join us next time for another Masters of Motorsport? Hello!
Hi.
Welcome to Masters of Motorsport.
Thank you.
With me, Paul Smith.
And myself, Mark Smith.
Today we're going to be discussing, well, the person that people call the greatest. I don't.
The legend.
That is, unfortunately, passed away, Ayrton Senna.
Yeah.
Let's see, he won the World Championship 3 times. Started his career with Toleman.
Where are they now?
That mecca of Formula 1 engineering.
Height of technology.
He unfortunately only had 10 seasons in Formula 1 because, of course, it was tragically cut short with his career. 161 starts, 41 wins, and like I say, the 3 World Championships. He had the rival with Alain Prost.
Of course, everybody knows that.
Everyone knows that, and we've discussed that at length in the Alain Prost show.
France's best racing driver.
Not only that, he had confrontations with drivers off the track as well, like with Nigel Mansell.
Yeah, just a little.
Where he punch Nigel Mansell?
He did punch Nigel Mansell right in the face.
Yeah, and he also confronted Eddie Irvine after the 1993 Japanese Grand Prix.
Yeah, but everybody went and got Eddie Irvine. Right?
If you search online with a popular search engine that you find on the interweb. You can actually find a transcript that a journalist has actually written onto the interweb of what actually was said between Ayrton Senna and Eddie Irvine.
If we find a link for it while we're putting this on YouTube, we'll put it in the description.
Yeah, we'll put it in that bit there on there. And basically, Ayrton Senna wasn't happy that he lapped Eddie Irvine, but because he couldn't get past Damon Hill, Eddie Irvine went, I can't be bothered waiting behind this guy, so he overtook Ayrton Senna again. And unlapped himself, which Ayrton didn't appreciate for some reason. I can't imagine why. So he confronted Eddie Irvine, and lo and behold, he punched him as well.
Yeah, in the face.
Quite a notorious club that is, I think. You can turn around and say, I was punched by Ayrton Senna.
Well, Eddie Irvine and Nigel Mansell could set up a Facebook group. I've been punched by Ayrton Senna.
Absolutely. Right, so not only was the punching incident, but there was controversy on the track, of course. He famously had a collision with Alain Prost.
Twice in 2 years.
at the same Grand Prix.
To decide the titles.
Yes. Of course, Alan Prost won the world title in '89 when they crashed into each other at the chicane. And Senna got pushed back onto the track by the marshals, but then went on to win the race, but then got disqualified
for being pushed.
Then, of course, 1990, famously, first corner, didn't get away well from the start line, and just decided to T-bone straight into the side of Alan Prost, and
which is always a good way to end a race
at the start. So, you know, we've got the controversies there, you know.
Do you think he sounds a little bit like a Michael Schumacher, maybe?
This is the point I made in the Michael Schumacher discussion.
Yeah.
You know,
links are on that side to the other videos.
Yeah. What you've got to remember is, you know, people know, you know, geniuses generally have flaws.
Yeah, look at Batman.
He wasn't a genius.
Alright. He's an orphan. That's different.
That's a sad story.
Yeah.
But not only, not only that, not only Batman, but of course you've got Peter Parker, who was Spider-Man. But
it's nothing to do with Senna.
No. So yeah, Ayrton Senna, would you consider him a controversial figure when you consider the likes of Michael Schumacher being called controversial for all the incidents that they've had?
Well, it's probably been reported more, obviously, with Schumacher because there's a lot more media access to the formula. But, you know, looking back on what has happened, comparing the two, obviously the same amount of wins is different, but the bits on and off the track, yeah, you could say they're in the same vein with that. Personally, I'd probably shelf Ayrton Senna. Alan Senna, that's his brother. Ayrton Senna, slightly above Michael Schumacher in my eyes.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I said earlier in the Michael Schumacher show that I thought Michael Schumacher was the greatest. But that's purely because we discussed that anyway. So, Ayrton Senna, rounding up, you know, fantastic world champion.
Flawed genius.
Flawed genius,
yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And really unfortunate the way that his career was tragically ended with his death at the San Marino Grand Prix. So, that's a rather sad end to Masters of Motorsport, but there you go, that's the Ayrton Senna story. There's a film about it coming out in the summer. Apparently it's brilliant, I want to see it. I'm sure you do as well.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, that's enough from us for this video. Why not join us next time for Masters of Motorsport? Welcome to Masters of Motorsport with me, Paul Smith.
And myself, Mark Smith.
Today we're going to be discussing one of our favourite drivers.
Yeah, that's fair to say.
Of the current group of Formula One drivers.
One of the best British drivers.
Absolutely, one of the best British drivers. Yeah. We are, of course, talking about
David Coulthard.
No, it's
David. That's why I got the shirt.
No,
it's David Coulthard.
No, I told
Coulthard.
No, I told you, it's Jenson Button. I thought we discussed this in the meeting before.
Jenson Button.
I'm
wearing the wrong shirt.
Yeah, we'll just deal with it. So, of course, he started in Formula 1 in 2000 with the Williams team. Yeah, alright, get over it. As I was saying, he started in Formula 1 in the year 2000 with the Williams team, finished 8th in the World Championship there. He then went on loan, which is unusual for Formula 1.
Well, football it happens, we're not Formula 1.
He went on loan to the Benetton team, as it was then, which then the following season, while he was still there, went into Renault. He was then because of Fernando Alonso going to Renault, he had to make way for him, so he was due to go back to Williams. But, controversy, he then bought himself out of his contract, I do believe it was, and ended up going to BAR.
Of all places.
With that weird bloke who was in charge of it. What do they call Craig Pollock, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's the fella. Sounds like fish.
He then had a few seasons just sort of developing the team, trying to push them in the right direction. Sometimes literally pushing the car in the right direction. And then changed to Honda, of course, bought out by Honda, the Honda giant motor company there.
Well, they did supply the engines for the BAR team.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
So they were part of the technological force behind it, and they just went, well, everyone else is becoming a manufacturer team, let's buy our own.
So BAR was bought out by Honda, and it was in the 2006 season when Jenson Button won his first race at the Hungarian Grand Prix. Mark, what's your memories of that Grand Prix?
My memory of that Grand Prix is walking through the concourse of Schiphol Airport, watching it happen on a screen at a Buc-ee's.
Yeah, that's mine as well.
Turning to Paul going, is that Jenson winning?
Yeah, it was utter disbelief at Jenson actually winning a Grand Prix. We were happy.
We did then say, we're not watching it at home. That's not right.
Yeah, we weren't watching it at home. We were coming back from Holland. And so I rang up our dad. So then, after we'd seen that happen through the window of the Buc-ee's at Schiphol Airport, we rang up our dad and said, "Is that Jenson winning?" And he said, "Yes, it is," which was nice. So then, of course, it was a few years after that. Honda weren't really performing well.
Terrible.
Shocking. 2007, 2008 season, they were rubbish.
Bum.
So then Honda, at the end of 2008, decided to pull out of Formula 1 altogether because it was too expensive for them. Many discussions about who would buy out the team and form a new team. And eventually, Ross Brawn, along with some of the management that were there, bought out the team from Honda, who had kept the whole team going whilst this was going on, which it's very strange of a company to do that.
They helped them with being able to develop the car for the following season, which is, a benefit to the Brawn team anyway. But it just so happened to be one of the best cars the following season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they managed to exploit the rule changes as they happened then, much to the annoyance of Red Bull and several of the other teams.
Ferrari.
Yeah, that's enough on McLaren. Renault. And those teams weren't happy about this car, but it was proved to be legal.
Well, Williams and Toyota were quite happy with it.
Yeah, absolutely. They'd done it as well. So then, of course, Jenson Button, first 7 Grand Prix of the year, went on to win 6 of those 7. It was a fantastic achievement from Jenson. And he then just sort of plodded away, kept on getting points, and ended up winning the World Championship. I mean, where were you when Jenson won the World Championship in Brazil?
I was in Florida. Nowhere near a TV that had coverage.
So 2006, you saw it through a Buc-ee's window. 2009,
I saw it on the news.
You saw it on the news. Yes. Brilliant.
It did well. Although my Sky Plus broke, it didn't work.
Your generic hard drive satellite receiver. So with myself, I was at home watching the Grand Prix and really sort of, go on, Jenson, because it was a hard fighting drive from him to win the World Championship. And of course, 2010, moved to McLaren.
Teamed up with Lewis Hamilton, who's also an ex-British world champion. Well, he was the champion at the time.
Absolutely. And went on to win 2 more Grand Prix at the start of the year.
And they thought it was going to be a marriage made in heaven with Lewis, Jenson and McLaren all put together as one team.
But unfortunately things didn't turn out how they wanted, and unfortunately just missed out on the World Championship. Jenson finishing 5th in the championship in the end. But a good effort from him.
Yeah.
Say he was in a new team that was very heavily influenced by Lewis Hamilton. So anyway, that's the end of this discussion on Masters of Motorsport. Join us next time for another Masters of Motorsport. I said Masters Motorsport. That was cool. We'll see. Welcome to Masters of Motorsport with me, Paul Smith.
And myself, Mark Smith.
Today we're going to discuss one of the most exciting talents in Formula 1 at the moment, ex-world champion in 2008. We are, of course, talking about Lewis Hamilton. So, as I say, won the World Championship in 2008. He came onto the scene in Formula 1 in 2007 after winning the GP2 series in 2006. But, as many people have surely been told, he did approach Ron Dennis at the Autosport Awards when he was 10 years old, and he says, one day I want to be racing your cars. It says on my notes there. So, lo and behold, a few years later, Ron gave him an old ring and signed him up for his team to progress through the McLaren structure.
An old ring.
The old ring. Then, of course, 2007 gets its debut season in Formula 1 with Fernando Alonso as his teammate in that season. Fernando, I don't think really expected much of a challenge from Lewis. Not a lot of people did actually expect much from Lewis that year.
Well, I think a lot of people were sort of, oh look, it's another new driver in Formula 1. So they expected him to probably be, well, he's in a McLaren, he might be midfield. Possibly, I think was the thing before they started.
I think it was sort of like expected that he'd score points for McLaren, but it was expected that Fernando Alonso would take the lead in terms of driving for McLaren.
But then what Fernando didn't expect was for Lewis to be an absolute match for him in every respect.
We like that.
On his first season in Formula 1, in the same car as Fernando, because McLaren operate an equal policy.
Absolutely.
There's no first team driver, second team driver. You're all the same, lads. Get to it.
So, 2007, Lewis Hamilton was involved in the title challenge along with his teammate Fernando Alonso and the drunk finishman Kimi Raikkonen. Lewis famously overtook Kimi at the first corner at the Malaysian Grand Prix, much to the surprise of everyone, because Kimi was known as being a bit of a hard charger.
Well, apparently he is, but he didn't win that time.
No, but later on in the season, of course, there was the whole scandal, the controversy about McLaren with their, and I hate using this, Spygate.
Dirty.
With the whole Ferrari thing.
Basically, an engineer used to work for Ferrari, went to McLaren, he happened to know some things about Ferrari, put them on the McLaren.
Well, he had a dossier about all their policies.
He had a 700-page book.
Yes, and basically, so McLaren got fined $100 million and were thrown out of the Constructors' Championship, but they were kept in the Drivers' Championship.
Yes, they were, because it wasn't the drivers, it was the team that were at fault.
Even though Fernando Alonso knew about it all and was actually involved in the investigation. Ooh, controversy with Fernando Alonso.
Controversy!
So, finished up Brazilian Grand Prix, last Grand Prix of the year. Lewis Hamilton was looking in a good position to win the title, but then he had a bit of a gearbox problem with his car and he had no drive for about 40 seconds, I think it was.
Yeah.
And ended up finishing outside the places where he needed to finish and lost the championship by one single point to Kimi Raikkonen winning the championship. Alonso finishing on the exact same points as Lewis, proving that Lewis was actually a match for Fernando.
Although my main memory about that race was that I was on holiday in Mexico watching this.
There seems to be a theme about you going on holiday for the Brazilian Grand Prix.
Anywho, we were in holiday, Mexico, obviously, Spanish speaking. A lot of Spanish people go there for holidays. And of course they all wanted Fernando to win. As soon as Lewis had his trouble with his drive, they were all shouting, "Yeah, yeah, look at you Brits, you rubbish!" Like that. And then Kimi won, and I just sort of looked at my wife and said, "Well, I'll take that."
Yeah, absolutely. We don't particularly like Fernando Alonso. Then the following season, of course, 2008, the big season for Lewis Hamilton. The season that he won the World Championship with some spectacular driving, once again, from Lewis. He did have a couple of accidents along the way, like crashing into the back of Kimi Raikkonen in the pit lane at Canada.
On the red light.
On the red light, yes.
He was entirely at fault, and Lewis was fully compensated. That's his insurance details.
Fill out on that little box at the bottom.
Need a on that box.
Yeah. So he had that little accident, and he really sort of had to fight for the championship to the end, of course. And famous last race again at Brazil. Were you on holiday for this?
No, I wasn't for that one.
Oh,
no,
that's
that was
good.
one time I wasn't.
So Brazilian Grand Prix, last lap of the race. Lewis is one place behind where he needs to be.
Felipe Massa's family and friends all in the Ferrari garage going.
Felipe Massa crosses the line. At that point, yes, he was world champion. But it was raining. Mm-hmm. Everyone had gone into the pits for wet tyres, apart from Timo Glock in the Toyota, who was struggling around like people driving on ice. And eventually, second to last corner of the Grand Prix, Lewis. That's a bit of a shocker. Lewis went and overtook Timo Glock. Everyone in the McLaren pit went over the moon. The Ferrari team was still celebrating, apart from one guy who came on and went, no.
At which point a mechanic headbutted a wall.
Yes.
On TV.
Yes. It was one of the most exciting points of Formula One history, I would say, from my memory.
I don't think the title has ever been decided that close to the end of a race, in my memory anyway. I think it's always been 2 races before, 7 races before the first race. Something like that. But never on the last corner of the last race of the season. And it just wrapped up the whole season for everybody, really.
Absolutely, and it was a thoroughly deserved championship win for Lewis. 2009, it wasn't a good season for the McLaren. The car wasn't developed, but they put in some really good development work and got the car winning towards the end of the season. 2010, he was a title contender, but he fell out of the title. He had a couple of crashes at the Italian Grand Prix and at the Singapore Grand Prix that cost him possibly the title chance, at least. And so he finished, third in the championship? Third in the championship. A good effort from him. So we like you, Lewis, a lot.
Well done, mate.
And you can follow him on Twitter, by the way. So
Lewis for real, I believe it is.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So anyway, that's the end of Masters of Motorsport for this time. Why not join us next time for another Masters of Motorsport? Bye bye. Hold this for about 30 seconds. What are we doing next? I'm still doing this.
I'm still on the telly.
We definitely. Welcome to Masters of Motorsport with me, Paul Smith.
And myself, Mark Smith.
And today we're going to be discussing certainly your favourite driver in Formula 1.
Yeah. Present.
at present. That is, of course, Mark Webber.
Mark Webber.
Of course.
In Australia.
Yeah. So 2002, he started in Formula One with the Minardi team. But before that, people don't really know this, but he actually appeared in Le Mans for 2 years for Mercedes. One of those years, they did have slight issues with the car going like that. And so they pulled out of that Le Mans race when Peter Dunbrek had his big accident.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. Have a look.
Yeah, you can find it. And so, that was, he was in sports cars a lot. Like I say, gone to Formula One. And in Australia, in his debut race, finished 5th.
Yep, and the crowd went absolutely nuts, as they would for their fellow countrymen, as it were, a bit like our guys do for the British drivers at Silverstone. But obviously, 5th in a Minardi, that was unheard of.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
That never happens until then.
Yeah, until then. But unfortunately, the rest of the year was a struggle for him. The Minardi wasn't exactly the best car in the field, or indeed on the track. And so what happened was he then moved to Jaguar the following year. Again, not a brilliant team. Not a brilliant car. Of course, Jaguar was Stewart Grand Prix until Ford bought them out and used the Jaguar brand. And then after a couple of years, a couple of years. Or was it just 1 year in Jaguar?
I think it was a couple of years with Jaguar, and then they put the team up for sale.
Yeah, he then moved to Williams.
Yes.
And at Williams, he had a couple of seasons there. Through the lean years of Williams, I would say, unfortunately for them, before eventually he moved to Red Bull to drive alongside David Coulthard. And, what can you say about his time at Red Bull?
Well, he was one of the main sort of cornerstones of the team. He was there from the beginning when they were bought out the ashes of the Jaguar team anyway. Along with David Coulthard, who he learnt a lot of stuff from, as well as helping to develop the car. It's taken the team 6 years to go from the inception of Red Bull to winning the titles both of constructors and drivers, which, based on previous history of Formula One, again, never heard of.
Absolutely, yeah, it's never heard of.
Until then.
Until then. But 2009, of course, he was fighting for the championship. Won his first race at the German Grand Prix, having to beat Rubens Barrichello and having a drive-through penalty for almost driving Rubens Barrichello off the track at the start.
He does have a habit of that, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Being driven off. Yeah.
But so Mark, he had the drive-through, he won the Grand Prix. He was, shall we say, a little emotional on the radio after the Grand Prix. And he's one of the most liked people in the paddock in Formula One, isn't he?
He's probably got more charisma than most of the other teams' drivers anywhere, to be honest, to be fair. He always tells it straight. He doesn't like to fart about or whatever he's saying. If he's got something to say, he will say it.
Oh, of course, we've got to remember before the start of the season, he had an accident on a mountain bike, which broke his leg.
That was his own race series, that.
Yeah, his Mark Webber Challenge, which put jeopardy to the start of his season, but he recovered enough to be able to drive in it. Eventually went on to win a few Grand Prix in that season and possibly challenge for the title. He wasn't the favourite for the title out of the team because Sebastian was performing better in that car that year.
Yeah.
Following year, there was controversy involved in the Red Bull team, and it seemed to be favouring towards Sebastian.
Yeah, that was more evident in the Turkish race, I think, when Sebastian and Mark Webber had the little get-together, let's just say.
Yeah,
they had a little tete-a-tete on the track.
Absolutely.
Vettel obviously pulled out the race because his car was ruined!
Because he's an idiot.
And then, for some reason, he stood there at the side of the track, professionally professing to do that.
Yeah. And then after the race, Dr. Helmut Marko, who is the head of the Red Bull driver development scheme, he appeared to be coming out in favour of Sebastian, saying it was all Mark's fault. And there was a feeling that the team was going against Mark Webber at that point.
But this was considering all the press up and down the paddock, no matter where they were all saying there was no way that was Webber's fault.
Yeah, absolutely. And then British Grand Prix, again, more controversy. When Sebastian Vettel was given the brand new wing after his had broken on his.
Well, they only had one each for the entire weekend. He broke his in practice, he didn't break it, it felt a bit.
Yeah.
Basically.
And so they took the new wing off of Mark Webber's car, gave it to Sebastian. Sebastian then got a puncture at the start of the Grand Prix, basically gifted Mark Webber the victory. Mark Webber, of course, famously said, "Not bad for a number 2 driver."
Yeah. Of which Christian Horner then said, "Well, maybe you can raise a smile now."
Of course,
the funniest bit of that race, though, was that apparently the mechanics on Mark Webber's car, when they were taking the car to pieces to put it back into the truck to go to the next race, got hold of the wing and were going, at Sebastian's mechanics. Allegedly.
But anyway, so that all happened, and unfortunately things didn't work out. He was the closest title contender in the final Grand Prix, and things didn't work out for him.
Well, crashing off at career in the inaugural race there. Also, being upside down didn't help.
Yeah, Valencia, that was a major thing again.
Although there is now a new advert concept for DHL. Throw a Formula 1 car through the sign. Yeah. Backwards, upside down, sideways.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, he didn't win the title that year, which was a great pity for him. So, to sum up then, Mark Webber, damn good driver, true Aussie grit as he calls himself.
As I say.
And he does appear to be a genuine bloke off the track as well. So, that was Masters of Motorsport. I'm Paul Smith.
I'm Mark Smith.
We'll see you again next time. Bye.
Bye.